Hi, my name is Jay Waterman. I'm the author of 7 Unusual Habits You Need for Good Sleep, and I'm a sleep optimization specialist. I'd like to thank all the doctors, practitioners, and professionals for tuning into this class. And my goal is that by the end of this lecture, you will have all the information that you need to take your patients from a tight chest to a good rest through the 5-step protocol to eliminate all breathing problems during sleep. Now, this is very close to my heart because from the time as far back as I can remember, I always had these breathing issues. On a good day, I'd have maybe half a nostril to breathe through. And if I ran into any dust or pollen or allergens, my chest would get so tight. The worst thing was trying to go to bed at night, laying on my back, and feeling the weight of the world on my chest. And if I rolled onto my side, then my whole nose and my sinuses would clog up, and I'd end up breathing through my mouth, and that would cause me to wake up multiple times at night to get water. So of course that was a cascading effect downwards for the rest of my day. The 5-step protocol is going to address the 2 main underlying issues that are causing us to have these breathing problems during our sleep. So the first thing is the inflammation that happens in our airways. We have this balloon representing our lung, and this tube which represents the airway that we're going to have to breathe the air in through to get into our lungs. And we have another one on this side, but the airway is about half the size, representing inflammation in the airways. So I'm just going to breathe into this to inflate this as if we're trying to get air into our lungs. See, with 3 breaths, no problem, I can get a pretty good amount of air into the lungs. I'll continue. And with 6 breaths, we've got a really nice size. So we've been able to completely fill up the lungs. I'll just put this over here. And this is the normal situation. This is what we want. But in this case, with the smaller airway, okay, so it was a little bit tougher to breathe into this, but you know, I can still do it. But when we get to about this point, something's going to change. So it's actually really stressful right now in order to get the air into this lung, okay? And this is the same thing that happens inside of our bodies. Once we reach a certain threshold or capacity, if our airways are inflamed, then it's going to become very difficult to get any more air into the lungs. Just put this aside. The next issue is mucus within the lungs. And what I have here is I have 2 sponges to represent our lungs, because I think of the lungs like a sponge that's supposed to soak up oxygen and pass it on to the blood. So on this side we have a nice clear lung, not too much mucus in it, and on this side we have a lung which is laden with too much mucus, especially the kind of hard and thick mucus which is going to obstruct our airways. So I'm just going to take this sponge with this good lung. There's our oxygen coming out. Okay, passing all that oxygen into our bloodstream. Okay, and we got a good amount there. Good functioning lung. We got about 250 milliliters from there. On this side now, we've got that lung which is laden with mucus. We'll do the same thing. And you see, we're not getting the same kind of production that we want. Here we've only got about 50 milliliters. So what we want to do is we want to eliminate this mucus and inflammation within the respiratory system. And I want to be clear on something. In my opinion, the body does not make mistakes. Okay? The body is simply reacting to the environment and the situations that we put it in. So what we have to do is we have to change that environment, we have to change the situation from everything that we eat, drink, breathe, and think in order to make an optimal situation for our lungs so we can eliminate this mucus and inflammation using the 5-step protocol to eliminate breathing issues during sleep. So what I'm going to show you now is an example with a case study that I've done with a young 27-year-old lady. Now, I believe that the body doesn't make mistakes. So all the inflammation and the mucus that's building up in the system, the body's doing it for a reason. It's based on the environment that we're putting the body in. The body simply has to react to that environment. And if we pose threats to the body, it has to react with inflammation and mucus. And it's my belief that if it didn't do that, we would be in a worse off situation. So, what I want to do is show you how we can make lifestyle changes in order to change the environment our body's in and make our body react the way we want it to. We'll talk about how I've implemented the 5-step protocol with a specific case study. There's a young lady, she was 27 years old, and she had a severe case of asthma and nasal blockage. And basically, she would literally buy cases of nasal spray by the caseload because that's how often she had to clear up her nose. And she'd have to take her puffer multiple times a day. But the worst part, again, was when she went to sleep. She would have trouble falling asleep. Sometimes she'd have to use her parents' sleep apnea device. And she would wake up at least 3 times a night to take her puffer, take her nasal spray, and drink water because of course she was breathing through her mouth. So what we did is we implemented the 5-step protocol, and step 1 is eliminating foods that take your breath away. So for breakfast, what she would usually have is coffee. And what we did is we replaced that with chamomile tea. The reason is because she wanted something hot, and the issue is that the coffee causes dehydration and inflammation. But the chamomile tea is going to hydrate her, and it has anti-inflammatory properties. And this is what we want, so we can open up those airways. The other advantage that she had is because she didn't like to eat breakfast. And there's something key with that. And what that is that the intestines only have time to heal after it's been emptied out and you give it a rest. If we introduce more food, the intestines don't get to heal and they don't get to rejuvenate. And what we find is that people who have healthier intestines are basically by default going to have healthier lungs. So again, we want something nice and hydrating, such as chamomile tea and coconut water, one of the best hydrators that you can find. Now, next, what she would normally have for lunch, which we switched up, she would normally have whatever she had for dinner the night before, which was usually, let's say, rice and a stew or pasta. And what we wanted to do is we switched that up with some nice salad. So either a nice fruit salad or a green salad. And the reason we wanted to do that is we wanted to introduce some nice raw fruits and vegetables. Because one of the key problems and one of the key causes of respiratory diseases such as asthma and COPD is oxidative damage. So the free radicals in the body are actually causing damage to our lungs. And when we get raw fruits and vegetables inside of us, we get to take advantage of those antioxidants. When we cook our foods, we lose the electrons and therefore the antioxidants are rendered useless from that perspective. So again, the raw fruits and vegetables are an amazing choice for lunch. Then for dinner, this is actually the most difficult part for her because she was eating dinner with her family and she kind of ate what everybody else ate. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to make some switches that she could basically still have the same meal with her family and without losing out on any of the taste or the flavor. And we're going to add in the nutrients, we're going to decrease the inflammatory response. So what we did here is we replaced her rice and her pasta, which are basically grains. We replaced the grains with seeds. So we have here buckwheat, millet, or quinoa. And these come in, you can cook them just like rice, or they come in pasta forms as well, and you can create or make your roti or your bread with it. So you can basically create anything you want And again, we want to switch from the grains to the seeds. Another one of her staples were potatoes. And what we did is we switched her from the potatoes, which is the runaway starchy sugars, and we switched that over to squash and or chayo. So we get the same kind of feeling, the same kind of flavor, even better in my opinion. And we eliminate some of those issues. And finally, any of the cooking that they were going to do, we wanted to replace any of the cooking oils with coconut oil. And the reason we did that is because coconut oil can withstand a higher temperature before it goes rancid. And when we get rancid oil in our system, again, we're going to have an inflammatory response. Finally, any dairy products, just forget about it when we're on this protocol. Don't even think about it. We want to switch over to a nut or seed milk. You can use sesame, almonds, whatever it is. So a nut or seed milk, which is wonderful, and that's perfect. So that's covering step one, which is eliminating foods that take your breath away. And we've given lots of replacement choices for that. Step two is a mucus melting regimen. So we want to melt all the mucus in the lungs so it can be drained out of the body. So what we want to do there is we want to implement some spicy foods. So in her dinner she'd add in some ginger, some hot peppers, some chili, some garlic, whatever it is that's going to help heat up her system, which is going to help to melt out that mucus from her lungs. The other things that I told her to do was to either, go into a sauna, a hot shower, a steam room, or do some kind of vigorous exercise to heat up her body, make her sweat, and that was also going to help to melt that mucus out of her system. So step three is basically breathing exercises. There's so many different breathing exercises that we can find on the internet today, and I would suggest that almost any breathing exercise is going to be good for you. Now, one of my favorites is actually a laughter kind of breathing exercise. So you fake the laughter and you make a real forceful, if you can crack up, that's even better. But the key here is we're strengthening up all the muscles in our airways. And if you can remember the last time that you laughed really hard, uncontrollably, you'll notice that your mouth was sore, all this area was sore, your stomach was probably hurting, but that is strengthening those muscles. And the other thing that we're doing is when we feel good, we increase the amount of antioxidants created in our body, which is opposite to when we're depressed and we're creating free radicals in our body. So again, the way that we're thinking is also going to affect the inflammatory response of our body, and clearly studies have shown a clear correlation between depression and breathing diseases. The fourth step in the protocol is air hygiene. We want to make sure that our air is clean. There's lots of negative ions in the air. We have good humidity in the air, and we don't want to have too much dust and allergens. So in her case, what we did is we made sure that she always had a power medallion around her neck. It's a device that emits negative ions, a minimum of 5,000 negative ions. And what this does is when the negative ions go out in front of her, it's actually going to counteract and per se disarm some of the pollutants that would be coming into her. Okay, so that's going to help to basically clean the air that she's breathing in as it encounters her. Studies have also shown that negative ions have an impact on reducing inflammation, and it also has an impact on reducing the symptoms of asthma. And step 5 is going to be physical exercises and different kind of positions. And the one that we did for her is standing on her head. Now, I know that all of your patients want to be able to stand on their head. If not, they can go to their local gym and possibly they have an inversion machine. This is important because it kind of shakes things up, moves things around, and allows things to get moved around in the system, hopefully to come out. The other thing that it does is kind of a diagnostic technique, because when you go upside down, you start to feel pressure anywhere in your body where you have some kind of a blockage. So whether that blockage is from mucus, inflammation, scar tissue, or all the above, you're actually going to feel in your body wherever that problem is. And even though you might not be feeling that symptom, right now, you can actually predetermine where the issue is and then go and get it. One other thing that I recommend a lot of the times is that the person should change their mattress. And the reason is, a lot of times people have a really old, dusty mattress full of allergens, and no matter what they do with their diet, when they go back and they sleep in that dusty bed, it's going to trigger some kind of response from their immune system. So I always recommend a nice customizable mattress that's going to fit both partners, and something where the cover can be taken off and cleaned, and also often replaced if necessary, so that they can sleep in a very nice and hygienic environment. Now, with this 5-step protocol, I've found that every single person has had significant success within 2 weeks. However, in this case specifically, after day 1, we found that instead of waking up 3 times a night, she woke up just once in the night to take her puffer and her nasal spray. By the 2nd day, she actually slept through the night, completely slept through the night. And by the 3rd day, not only did she sleep through the night, but she was actually off of her puffer and her nasal spray, and that was it. She stuck to her lifestyle. Now, the reason why this case was so important is because this young girl was 2 days away from getting nose surgery. When she seen me in my office, I gave her a challenge to take the 5-step protocol just for 2 weeks. And if for some reason it didn't work, then go ahead and get the surgery, because surgery should be a last resort. The other thing that I brought to her attention was, even if she got the surgery on her nose, she may still wake up often in the night because of her lungs, right? She had asthmatic conditions. She was waking up to take the nasal spray and the puffer. And we eliminated all of those issues with the 5-step protocol. Now, what I like to do is I want to make sure that when you implement this with your patients, you want to go with an all or none kind of model. And the reason we want to do this is because we want to kind of attack the situation from all angles and cover all grounds. And I found that every single situation so far has been 100% success within 2 weeks. And I mean significant life-changing results every single time. I'd love to hear how much success you're having with the 5-step protocol. I'm sure you'll have amazing results within 2 weeks, just like I've had with all of my patients. And please share with me those stories on Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn, or even email me. My email is j@optimizesleep.com. And I've also prepared for you a food guide so that you can easily provide this to your patients. And it has all the different replacements that for the general foods that people eat, and the replacements that are going to help to eliminate that mucus and the inflammation. And you can find that at optimizesleep.com/food guide. Now you have all the information that you need to take your patients from a tight chest to a good rest. Thank you so much for tuning in, and sleep well.